You're watching WION World is One. Zim Media and WION are hosting the Global Innovation and Leadership Summit in Colombo, bringing together senior political leaders, ministers, diplomats and business figures from India and Sri Lanka. The forum aims to strengthen bilateral cooperation between the two countries amid expanding economic and cultural ties. We take you live to Colombo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, distinguished business leaders, friends from India and from Sri Lanka. It is both a privilege and a deeply personal honor, I must say, to speak to you today on a subject that is not merely economic, nor strategic, or diplomatic to me. It is personal. Because when we speak of India and Sri Lanka as partners in progress, I do not speak as an observer. I speak as evidence. I stand before you as a son of Sri Lanka, born of Indian roots, shaped by the Sri Lankan soil and made by the opportunities this island gave my family. My story in many ways is a story of what is possible when India and Sri Lanka do not merely coexist but grow together. My forefathers crossed a narrow stretch of ocean. But what they really crossed was possibility. They came from India to Sri Lanka not as conquerors, not as empire builders, not even as men of privilege. They came as people of courage. Like so many families who crossed these waters generations ago, they came little more than values of discipline, faith, and the willingness to work. They brought with them something that no customs officer could stamp and no port could tax. They brought enterprise. They brought resilience. They brought family values and trust. And Sri Lanka gave them, as much every great nation must give those who are willing to build, a chance to belong, a chance to build, and a chance to dream. This is the story of my family. And that, I believe, is the story of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has been more than an island. It has always been an idea, a meeting point, a trading post, a bridge between civilizations, a place where cultures arrive not to collide, but to converge. For centuries, our two nations have been bound not just by geography, but by something much deeper: memory, movement, commerce, culture, and civilization. Before there were trade agreements, there were traders. Before there were diplomatic missions, there were pilgrims. Before there were policy frameworks, there were people. The ties between India and Sri Lanka was not written in treaties. They were written in footsteps. In the footsteps of monks carrying the Dhamma, in the footsteps of merchants carrying spice, silk, and stories, in the footsteps of families crossing oceans in search of dignity and opportunity, in footsteps of ideas, faith, languages, and traditions that still shape us today. And this is what makes our relationship unique. India and Sri Lanka are not just neighbors, ladies and gentlemen. We are a civilization partners. India is the world's largest democracy. Sri Lanka is Asia's oldest democracy. India is one of the great engines of the 21st century. Sri Lanka, smaller in size, holds this rare advantage of agility, access, and strategic intimacy. India is scale. Sri Lanka is precision. India is volume. Sri Lanka is velocity. India is the world's greatest growth story. Sri Lanka can become one of its most valuable growth partners. This is not diplomacy. That is strategy. And the question before us is not whether India will rise. India is already rising. The real question is, who will rise with India? And I believe Sri Lanka can. Not as a bystander, not as a dependent, but as a trusted partner. Sri Lanka can become for India what the best partnerships of the world always become. An extension of strength, a place to think, a place to build, a place to test, a place to refine, a place to scale. For Indian business, Sri Lanka should not be really viewed as a market of 22 million people. That is far too small a lens. Sri Lanka must be seen as a strategic platform, a platform for regional operations, a platform for talent, a platform for logistics, a platform for high-value manufacturing, a platform for services, a platform for brand India to engage with speed, elegance, and trust. Look at what Sri Lanka offers. We sit at the center of the Indian Ocean. We just off the southern coast of India, at the crossroads of the busiest maritime routes in the world. A ship leaving India does not pass Sri Lanka. It passes through Sri Lanka's relevance. We offer proximity without complexity. We offer access with agility. We offer a highly literate workforce, deep service capability, legal familiarities, cultural compatibility, and an instinctive understanding of Indian enterprise. And perhaps most importantly, we offer comfort. For Indian business leaders, Sri Lanka does not feel foreign. It feels familiar. The food is familiar. The family values are familiar. The emotional grammar is familiar. The cultural rhythm is familiar. You do not need to explain ambition here. You do not need to explain family values here. You do not need to explain trust here. Sri Lanka understands India not because we study India. Sri Lanka understands India because in many ways we have grown alongside India. That matters in business. Capital goes where confidence lives, and confidence grows where understanding already exists. That is Sri Lanka's greatest competitive advantage. Not costs, not incentives. It is about Indian enterprise seeing Sri Lanka not only as a destination, but a part and execution. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, in fact, I appeal to you to build your second headquarters here. I ask you to build your regional service centers here. Build your design labs here. Build your logistics platforms here. Build your financial technology back offices here. Build your great hospitality brands here. And build your confidence here. Come not only to sell to Sri Lanka. Come to build from Sri Lanka. That is the shift. And if that shift happens, this relationship will move from historical friendship to a very strategic independence. And that's where the true progress is. I've said this before and I'll tell today that no honest speech on India and Sri Lanka can be made without gratitude. Because partnership is tested not in prosperity, but in crisis. When Sri Lanka faced moments of hardship, India stood by Sri Lanka. in terms of uncertainty, in terms of shortage, in times of economic distress, in times when friendship mattered more than formality. India showed up, not with slogans, with support, not with sentiment, but with substance. And Sri Lanka remembers that. And for that friendship, for that solidarity, and for that consistency, Your Excellency, we say thank you again. Not diplomatically this time, but sincerely. And today I say to my friends from India, do not look at Sri Lanka merely from the lenses of its past difficulties. Look at Sri Lanka through the lenses of its future possibilities. This is a nation of resilience, a nation of intelligence, a nation of strategic consequence, a nation that has stumbled, yes, but a nation that never stopped, standing back up. And that is the kind of nation you should be partnering with. I know this because my own life is a proof of what Sri Lanka can make possible. A family arrives, a chance is given, a business is built, a future is created, a life is transformed. This is not just my story. Can be the story of this nation. And perhaps that is the true promise of India and Sri Lanka as partners in progress. Not merely that we trade together, but that we rise together. Not merely that we invest in each other, but that we believe in each other. Not merely that we share geography, but we share destiny. India is rising. Sri Lanka is ready. Let us meet not only as neighbors. Let us build as partners. Let us not inherit only history. Let us create legacy. Thank you. Thank you so much.